trip number 2 is coming up, and it's going to be a trip from Kentucky to, where else would you go on the 4th of July but to Washington, D.C. So we'll be heading to Washington, D.C. Tomorrow. It's about a 10-hour trip, and frankly, the first leg of it from Kentucky to Huntington, West Virginia, which it says will arrive at with 25%, which is plenty, and have to charge there for 35 minutes. Why 35 minutes? Well, it's the second stop. This is an extremely hilly portion of the drive right here in West Virginia, and so it says I'll be stopping in Weston, West Virginia for my second stop, and anticipating that when I get there, I'll have to stop for 30 minutes, and then in Laval, Maryland, for 30 minutes on my way to DC. So I'm up and at it, and this will be a very early trip, so I'll be starting tomorrow morning early. I did go ahead and charge up to 240 miles on my almost 100%, but not quite. I could have gone to 100%, but anyways, I am ready to begin. So the next time you'll see me will be around 3 a.m. to begin this trip tomorrow. Good morning. It is 2:41 a.m. and we're getting ready to leave. Only 3 hours sleep for this 10-hour trip, so anyway, we are heading to Huntington, West Virginia. Something that we're going to watch closely here is, you could see it's expecting us to get there with about 16% battery. I hope that's not true because I've never gone that low, but it's fine. We'll see. We are in Huntington, West Virginia. How did we do? Well, we arrived with 30%, almost twice what was estimated. You could see here that we've gone 129 miles, used 32 kilowatt hours, and our average was 248 watts per hour, which is good. Not great, but good. So we are here. Okay, and I put in my trip, and sorry for all the light. Anyway, it looks like next stop will be Weston, West Virginia, and right now it says I better charge here for about a half hour, and that's what we're going to do. Let's see if this ramps up. You could see we're ramping up. 100, 120, 130. So it looks like it's going to be right around 130 kilowatts, which is okay, good. And so let's see how fast we can get going here. So Huntington, West Virginia, and it's a Sheetz, which is a neat place. I've been to them. They're very clean. I have my mask on. I cleaned the charger. So, well, I am charging, and of course it's slowed down now because of where I am. And so I think what I might do is, it's saying I can make it to Charleston and just do a quick top off there. And I think that might be the thing to do. So I am going to end this and head over to Charleston. Well, we are still in West Virginia, of course, heading towards Charleston, as you can see. And right now it says we're going to arrive with almost 50% at Charleston. I didn't want to take a chance for Weston, West Virginia, because it looked like it might be a little bit precarious. I wasn't sure, but in retrospect, I could have passed Huntington and made it to Charleston. So I'm kind of seeing that now. and as you can see, I'm doing pretty good at this point. So we're about 29, almost 30 miles into this part of the trip. I am now in Charleston, West Virginia, and you can see I arrived 47%, and I have 113 miles left, so I'm going to go ahead and charge here. This particular leg of the trip, you could see, was 53 miles only, 25.2, and so far I've gone 182 miles, doing 249 watt hours per mile. Not terrible. It is ramping up. By the way, this is at a Courtyard by Marriott, this particular set of chargers, and I didn't think it would, since I have so much left, I didn't think it would be a really fast charge. So anyway, right now it's at 85 or so. Supposed to be here about 15 minutes before we head on to our next stop, which is Weston, West Virginia, and you could see why we have to charge here. Right now I have -7% when I get there. How are we doing? First of all, we have fog in the West Virginia mountains, as you can see ahead. We've got about 53 miles. We're at 76 watt hours per mile, which is higher than I've ever done, actually. Estimated to arrive in Weston, West Virginia at 24%, which was what the estimate was. So that's also unusual, because usually I'm way better than that. I never speed. I always stay within the speed limit. And so that's where we are, and as you can see, over each little hill here, sometimes it's much worse and the visibility is poor, and then then the sun shines through. So it's about almost 7:30 in the morning, and we'll see when we get to Weston. We are in Weston, West Virginia. Hard to say over and over. I don't know if you could see, the chargers are over there awaiting me at a Sheets. Looks like I'm arriving at about 25 or 26%, which was estimated. And it looks like my watt hours per mile were about 259, which is good. I like that. So let's stop and fuel up here. I don't like the word fuel. Let's stop and add to our electric. We are ramping up, as you could see. We currently have 61 miles left. It says we should stay here about 30 minutes, and we'll check that out in a second here. Looks like we're going to get right around 1:30 to start, and then of course, as always, it'll taper off. So let's take a look at our trip, and the next stop is Laval, and we will check it out. I've been charging for about 25 minutes. I'm currently at 190 miles, as you could see. Laval would be the next stop, though there is a stop in Morgantown. Laval right now would say 8%. That's too worrisome for me. I like double digits, so let's see what we got here. I'm thinking that maybe when we get around 10%, I'll take off. This is only my second road trip in my Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus. And here's a frustration. When I finished charging in Weston, West Virginia, it showed that I was going to end the next leg with 11%. And now, as you can see, it says 25%, which is a significant difference. You can see my watt hours per mile are doing great. So I had that on my first trip also. I just don't quite know how to check it out yet. But anyway, let's see how we end in Laval, Maryland. We are in Maryland. I thought you'd enjoy seeing how hilly this part of the ride has been. It's kind of all over the place, as you can see. heading towards Laval, still about 40 miles away in Maryland. It says I'll arrive with about 24%. So we're doing pretty good. We are in Laval, Maryland, and let's see how we did here. We arrived with 23% or 55 miles. It's the lowest I've ever had. So let's charge up. Last stop. Well, I think I'm going to take off. As you can see, I've got 203 miles. I'm going to travel 130 miles. It says I'll arrive with 15%. I've been doing better than that, but I have to turn around and leave right away. So I'm assuming I could find superchargers around Washington, D.C. Here we go. All right, I am in Frederick, Maryland. I chickened out. I was going into D.C. I would have had, it's the 4th of July. I don't know what Washington, D.C. is going to be like on the 4th of July. So I worried a little bit. This part of the drive was awesome, by the way. As you could see, from Laval, Maryland to Frederick. Just awesome. It was only just under 100 miles. But I didn't want to get into D.C. I have to turn right around and leave. And I was a little bit uncomfortable because traffic's picking up. So I'm kind of sort of topping off. I have 40 miles to go. I'm now up to 140. So I'm in great shape. I probably won't even do a summary when I get there because I have to turn right around. So anyway, that's where we are. Summarize how the trip has gone, by the way. So far we've gone about 503 miles. We've used 121 kilowatts, and we're averaging 241 kilowatt hours per mile. That is awesome. I mean, the last part of the trip has been great. Of course, I have to go back, and I'm going to go through those same mountains. So I will probably leave in a few minutes, drive into DC, pick up my ride, and turn around and leave again. How did the Washington, D.C. trip go? Well, it was one day, and it took about 22 hours, 20 hours, and it was 1,100 miles. My watts per hour per mile, my watt hours per mile was 235, which is really good, as you probably would all agree. I did the speed limit. I never did speed. If anything, I went below it. There were some legs that were awesome. There was a leg from Frederick, Maryland to Washington, D.C. where it was a short part of it, but my efficiency was 104%. There were some others where it was very, very hilly and frankly more downhill. I'm sorry, more uphill than down. And in that case, it was only 70. I think it was 78%. Driving with autopilot in a Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus is awesome. To be able to drive that much in one day and feel comfortable at the end was amazing. So everything went well. There were really no major issues. I stopped 4 times each way, but really only had to stop either 2 or 3 each way. I got range anxiety on the way to Washington, D.C. once, and on the way back we got caught in the middle of 4th of July fireworks, so we only, in one case we had to just quickly charge and go to the next charger. So I would have been able to stop 6 times instead of 8. But even the 8, one of them was only 6 minutes long, I believe. So all in all, this is the way to travel, and I'm just infatuated with the Tesla, the way it runs, the way it works. So hope you enjoyed the video.